Hello, okay, and welcome to what may be the last of story time with The Wild Robot Escapes. Not quite decided if we're going to split this into two or not. We shall see how we go. Okay, chapter 81, The Meltdown. Throughout the city, humans stopped what they were doing and pulled out their electronic devices. Each screen was showing the same version of the defective robot's broken body. Rosum 7134 was etched into the torso. A blazing beam of light filled the picture, and the robot's parts turned bright orange. They began to melt. The limbs, the torso, the head, everything melted, and in a flash, our robot was reduced to a puddle. Words appeared on each screen. The defective robot has been destroyed. Chapter 82, The Secret. Dr. Malvo lived in a luxurious apartment that was built right into the robot factory. Art and books and leather furniture filled the rooms. Classical music always seemed to be playing softly in the background. As you might expect, she had a robot butler who cooked and cleaned and made sure everything was exactly how she liked it. Dr. Malvo's home was a comfortable place to grow old. The woman was standing in her living room, gazing at the city throughout the walls of the window. The sky was cloudy, but her mind was clear. Destroying the Rosum unit was the correct thing to do. However, Dr. Malvo had a secret. A wooden door opened, and in walked the butler. He was carrying a limp robot in his arms. It was Dr. Malvo's newest creation. A special project she'd been tinkering with for years, and the time had come to bring the robot to life. "Put her over there," said the woman, and the butler carefully laid the robot upon the soft cushions of a sofa. Then he turned and marched out the door. Dr. Malvo walked across the room. She stared down at the robot for a while, admiring her own handiwork. Finally, she leaned in close and said, "Wake up, Ros." Chapter 83, The New Robot. The robot heard classical music. She smelled flowery perfume, and when her eyes opened, she saw a wrinkled face. "Hello again, Ros," said the old woman. "How do you feel?" "Hello again, Dr. Malvo. I feel different." "You are different." "What have you done?" "I destroyed Rosum Unit 7134, said the woman. "That was the only way to make people feel safe again. What nobody knows is that I transferred your old mind into this body. I could get in a lot of trouble for saving you, but I wasn't about to destroy that remarkable mind of yours." The robot was speechless. So she's safe, or maybe, but she wasn't destroyed. "You know, Ros, you should really be thanking me," said Dr. Malvo, arching an eyebrow. "Thank you," said Ros. "Thank you very much." "You're very welcome," the woman chuckled. Ros walked over to a framed mirror on the wall and studied her new body. It resembled her old body, but the proportions were slightly different. She looked stronger. She felt tougher. And there were other differences. "I have no button," she said, feeling the back of her head. "And I have no unit number." "You've outgrown those things," said Dr. Malvo. "If I am not Rosum Unit 7134, who am I?" "I think you know who you are." The robot's computer brain didn't take long. She looked into the mirror and said, "I am Ros." The old woman smiled and nodded. "I appreciate all that you have done," said Ros, "but I worry that my friends and family will no longer recognise me." "Oh, I am sure you can convince them of who you are," said Dr. Malvo. "Speaking of your family, there's someone here to see you." Chapter 84, The New Mother. Bright Bill was there when his mother smashed against the pavement. He watched as her body parts were loaded into the airship. He followed the ship all the way back to the robot factory and perched himself onto the roof, but he didn't know what to do next. Strutter stopped by to check on Bright Bill. She encouraged him to fly home, but the goose wasn't ready to let go. His little heart had hoped his mother would come back from the dead somehow. He'd seen it happen before. As the hours passed, however, his hope was starting to fade. This is a bit of a flashback to when she first fell on the pavement. And then one of the roof windows automatically slid open. The goose heard gentle music coming from inside the building. He fluttered through the window and followed the music down the hallway to a wooden door. The door opened and the goose stepped inside. Bright Bill waddled past tall bookshelves and leather furniture and into the middle of a large room. An old woman was sitting in a chair and a robot was standing by a mirror. The goose didn't recognise either of them, and when the robot rushed towards him, Bright Bill squawked, "Stay back!" and scrambled away. Around the room he went, squawking and flapping until he settled on a table in the corner, looking lost and afraid. The robot stayed where she was. "Bright Bill, it is me, your mother." The goose just stared. "I know I look different on the outside," the robot went on, "but on the inside, I am the same. I still speak the language of animals, and I still speak every detail of our life together. I remember sitting around the fire in our home on the island. I remember the first time you took flight. We were up on the grassy ridge, and you stretched out your wings, and suddenly you were floating on the wind. But then you flopped back onto the grass. You must have flopped onto the grass 100 times that day. And I remember visiting the robot gravesite together. We talked about life and death. It was a tough conversation, but a good one." As the robot continued to speak, the goose began to relax. She certainly did act and sound like his mother, but Bright Bill wasn't convinced yet. If you're really my mother," he said, "tell me the name of our home." "The Nest." "Who's my best friend?" "Chit Chat. She is a squirrel. She talks a lot." "How old was I when you adopted me?" "You were 0. Actually, you were less than 0. I mean, you were still in your egg, but I could hear you peeping." And with those bubbling words, Bright Bill knew the truth. "Oh, Mama, it really is you!" The goose fluttered across the room and onto his mother's arms. The arms were new and unfamiliar, but they were also gentle and comforting. "I love you, Mama." "I love you, son." Oh, that was a bit high-pitched for us, sorry. From the other side of the room came the sound of sniffles. Our friends turned and saw Dr. Mulvey wiping tears from her eyes. "I have no idea what you two were saying," she said, "but that was wonderful." Chapter 85. The Guests. After travelling in secret, after running in fear, our friends were safe at last. But their problems weren't over yet. Although Roz had a brand new body and she had the same old mind, and most humans simply weren't ready for it, most humans simply weren't ready for an emotional, curious, wild robot. There was only one place where she could be her true self, and it was still far, far, far away. "Dr. Mulvey, you have already been so kind to me and my son," said the robot, "but I must ask you for one last favour." The woman sat back in her chair. "Could you take us home in your airship?" The woman laughed. "Well, of course I will. How else would you get onto an island in the middle of an ocean?" Time and again, Roz had dreamed of flying back to her island in an airship, but she never thought it would actually happen, until now. It's no trouble," the woman went on. "We can have you home in a few hours, but I insist that you and Bright Bill stay a while here in my apartment. You both deserve some peace and comfort, and I'd love your company." There was no argument with Dr. Mulvey, and our friends agreed to stay a while. The robot butler took care of everything and everyone in the apartment, and that included guests. Roz felt funny accepting help from a robot, but Bright Bill happily soaked up the attention. The butler fed him fantastic salads made from exotic leafy plants. The butler placed a little pool in the living room so he could swim whenever he liked. The butler built a cosy bed that was just the right size and shape for the young goose. Bright Bill had never been so comfortable. Dr. Mulvey divided her time between her guests and her work. She would sit around chatting with Roz and Bright Bill and then suddenly head down to the factory with some urgent tasks. She had to design new robots. She had to supervise the makers of the Recos. She had to manage all of the tech lab industries. Even at her old age, Dr. Mulvey was still consumed by a passion for robots. "If you love your job, it never feels like work," she'd say, smiling and strolling out the door. When the host was working, the guests had the apartment to themselves. Roz spent hours browsing the bookshelf. She read about art and science and the history of robotics. Bright Bill waddled from room to room and explored every corner of the sprawling apartment. But their favourite activity was to stand by the windows, gaze across the city and survey the incredible sights. "I can see the bridge where Strutter tracked me down," said Bright Bill. "And that's the building where I first met Greybeak. And there's the roof where you fell. Look, far in the distance, another spaceship is taking off," said Roz. "It could be flying to the space station or the moon or beyond." "I think that skyscraper is actually a greenhouse," said Bright Bill. I flew past it and saw nothing but plants inside." Roz and Bright Bill enjoyed their time in Dr. Mulvey's apartment, but they missed their friends and the wilderness and the island. After a few days, the guests were growing restless. They were ready to go home. And I think we might save the last little bit for tomorrow. So we will finish it then. Okay. See you then. Bye.